Key point review. A real estate broker license can have the following statuses or categories: provisional, BIC eligible, or BIC. Activities that require a license as per Section 93A2 include listing, leasing, buying, exchanging, auctioning, negotiating, and selling for others for compensation. Exceptions to licensure under Section 93A2 include activities performed by business entity property owners, individuals acting under power of attorney, attorneys, persons acting under court order, trustees, salaried W-2 employees of a broker property manager who do not negotiate, for sale, lease by owner, and housing authority employees. License status. Current, one must pay the annual renewal fee by June 30th. Renewal can be done online, and renewal is necessary even if on inactive status. Expired, occurs if the annual renewal fee is not paid by June 30th. Active, the license must be current, all required post-licensing and continuing education must be completed, and all provisional brokers and most brokers must be supervised by a BIC. Inactive, the license must be current and meet at least one of the following criteria: provisional broker did not affiliate with supervising BIC, did not complete 8 hours of continuing education before June 10th, did not complete post-licensing courses by the appropriate anniversary dates, or chose to remain or be placed on inactive status. Education requirements. Prelicensing, a 75-hour course with an end-of-course exam is required. There's no residency or formal educational requirement, but one must be at least 18 years old and pass the licensing exam. Post-licensing, 3 30-hour courses are required, each with an end-of-course exam. As of July 2020, provisional brokers must take all 3 post-licensing courses within 18 months of their anniversary date. This doesn't count toward continuing education requirements. Continuing education, 8 hours must be completed annually to remain active. The hours consist of the current year's 4-hour general update course for brokers or broker in charge update course for BICs and BIC eligible, plus a NCREC approved 4-hour elective course. This must be completed by midnight on June 10th. C is required before the second license renewal and every active renewal afterward. If there's a C deficiency, it must be made up before activation. Depending on the deficiency duration, the licensee might need to complete 60 hours of post-licensing courses. Credit for one 4-hour elective course can carry over to the next year. Non-resident licensees with an active license in their jurisdiction don't need to take NC-specific C for their North Carolina license. However, non-resident licensees must take C if they have an address in North Carolina. Activation of license. From July 1, 2018, license activation requirements vary based on how long since the license was active and whether the licensee has been completing C each year. For an individual broker license on inactive status with no C deficiency, one must submit the license activation form. If the individual broker license is on inactive status for less than 2 years with a C deficiency, one must complete the current year's C requirement fully, take either 1 or 2 approved electives to make up for the missing hours from the previous license year, and then submit the license activation form. For an individual broker license on inactive status for over 2 years with a C deficiency, one must complete 2 30-hour post-licensing courses, complete the current year's C requirement in full, and then submit the license activation form. Note, the NCREC doesn't automatically activate licenses. A broker or the BIC with whom the broker will be affiliated must submit the license activation form to notify the NCREC of the broker's desire for active status, and the office where the broker will work and do business. License reinstatement. All North Carolina real estate licenses expire on June 30th each year. To maintain a current license, the licensee must pay the annual license renewal fee between May 15th and June 30th. If not renewed by June 30th, the license expires. It's illegal to engage in brokerage activities with an inactive license. One must apply for reinstatement to regain a current license. If the renewal fee isn't received by June 30th, the license expires immediately. The former licensee must stop all brokerage activity. For licenses expired up to 6 months, one must pay a $90 reinstatement fee online and disclose any criminal convictions or disciplinary actions, including any incurred while the license was expired. Upon reinstatement, the license is on inactive status. To regain active status, the licensee must meet all activation requirements. For licenses expired more than 6 months but less than 2 years, one must complete 1 30-hour post-licensing course and submit a reinstatement application with a $90 fee, and all required documentation, including a criminal background report prepared within 6 months of application. Alternatively, one can submit a reinstatement application with a $90 fee and all required documentation, including a criminal background report prepared within 6 months of application, and pass the national and state sections of the license exam. If a license has expired for more than 2 years, one must start from scratch, complete the 75-hour North Carolina broker prelicensing course, submit a license application with a $100 original application fee, and all required documentation, including a criminal background report prepared within 6 months of application, and pass the national and state sections of the license exam. Broker in charge. General requirements. Every real estate firm and branch office needs a BIC. A BIC can be in charge of only one location, and there can be only one BIC per location. Sole proprietor brokers can be their own BIC. Being a BIC is not a different license, but a designation. Eligibility requirements. One must be a full, non-provisional broker, have at least 2 years of full-time real estate brokerage experience within the last 5 years or equivalent experience, complete the 12-hour BIC course within 1 year before or within 120 days after being designated as BIC eligible, and or BIC. Complete the broker in charge update annually as part of the 8-hour C requirement along with an approved elective, and maintain active status. Responsibilities. A BIC is responsible for retaining and displaying all current renewal pocket cards of all brokers in the firm, notifying the NCREC of any changes in firm information, ensuring proper conduct in all advertisements affiliated with the firm, maintaining the trust account and associated records properly, retaining all agency and transactional records, supervising all provisional brokers associated with the firm, and supervising all licensees in the firm in terms of compliance with agency agreements and disclosures. Trust accounts. General rules. A broker's trust or escrow account must be with an insured bank or savings association legally operating in North Carolina. All trust or escrow account records must be available for inspection by the Commission or its authorized representatives according to Rule .0108 of this section. Checks and deposit slips must be pre-printed with trust account or escrow account. A broker's trust account must be a separate account holding only trust funds, with no illegal commingling. A broker's trust account can contain up to $100 of the firm's money to cover bank service charge payments, which isn't considered commingling. The account can be interest-bearing if written permission is secured from all parties with funds in the account, how and to whom interest will be dispersed is specified, and permission contained in a transaction document is clearly highlighted. Firms entitled to receive interest from an interest-bearing trust account must remove that earned interest within 30 days to avoid illegal commingling. Firms are only required to have one trust account, but there's a requirement for a separate trust account for each property owner association managed. Handling of trust money, earnest money deposits and tenant security deposits paid via check must be deposited no later than 3 banking days after accepting the offer to purchase or lease. Cash deposits must be deposited within 3 banking days of receiving them. Rents, settlement proceeds, or other trust money must be deposited within 3 banking days of receiving the funds. A check or other negotiable instrument made payable to the seller of real property, as option money doesn't need to be deposited in a trust account. The check should be handled according to the buyer optionee's instructions. After accepting the option contract, the licensee has 3 business days to deliver the check to the seller. In case of a dispute between the seller optioner and the buyer optionee over option money, the money should be handled according to the buyer's instructions. Option money and cash must be deposited into a trust account within 3 banking days of receipt and must be dispersed within 3 business days following the acceptance of the option contract. Provisional brokers must immediately deliver funds to their BIC. Trust money held as part of a sales transaction can be dispersed to the settlement agent up to 10 days before the expected closing date. All money earned by the firm in the trust account must be dispersed within 30 days. The licensee must keep disputed funds in the trust account until obtaining a written release from the parties agreeing to the disposition. Disposition is ordered by a competent court, where the parties claiming ownership of the funds have been given written notice 90 days before depositing the funds with the clerk of court in the county where the property for the disputed funds is located. The North Carolina Real Estate Commission. The main purpose of the NCREC is to protect the public in real estate transactions involving brokers. The NCREC can penalize licensees by reprimand, censure, suspension, or revocation. It doesn't have the authority to jail or fine a licensee. It doesn't arbitrate compensation disputes or set commission rates. The NCREC consists of 9 members serving 3-year staggered terms. 3 members must be licensed brokers, and at least 2 must be public members. Real estate licensing in North Carolina. License qualification requirements. To qualify for an individual real estate broker license, an applicant must be at least 18 years old, be a U.S. citizen, non-citizen national, or a qualified alien under federal law, or have a lawful presence in the U.S. and be authorized to work in the U.S. in the real estate brokerage field. Note, a holder of a U.S. permanent resident card is a qualified alien. Work authorization in the U.S. for most other aliens requires a U.S. immigration visa and/or an employment authorization document from the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Service allowing work in the real estate brokerage field. The applicant must have a Social Security number, meet one of the education qualification options, submit a complete application and fee, pass the 2-part real estate license examination, and demonstrate to the NCREC that they have the required character for licensure. Education requirements. License applicants must complete the 75-hour North Carolina Broker Prelicensing course at an NCREC-approved North Carolina school, or possess education and/or real estate experience the NCREC considers equivalent to such course. An applicant with a current real estate license in another state equivalent to North Carolina's provisional or full broker license and who has been on active status within the past 3 years may either submit an application, including a criminal record report, certifications of licensure, and application fee, pass the state part of the license examination, and be issued a provisional or full broker license or submit an application, including criminal record report, certifications of licensure, and application fee, and be issued a provisional broker license and be subject to the post-licensing education requirement. Licensee information. Issuance of licenses. After an applicant meets the qualification requirements, passes the license examination, and proves to the NCREC that they are of good character, they will be considered qualified for licensure. Newly licensed brokers are provisional brokers. Most qualified applicants are issued an inactive broker license on provisional status. Exception: an applicant licensed by examination who qualified based on broker licensure in another jurisdiction is issued a broker license that is not on provisional status. Activation of initial inactive provisional broker license. A provisional broker license is initially issued on inactive status. Before the provisional broker can start work in the real estate business, the provisional broker and a BIC must file a license activation affiliation form to activate the provisional broker license. A provisional broker must always be supervised by a BIC when performing real estate brokerage activities. A provisional broker must complete the post-licensing education requirement to end the provisional status of the broker license. Requirement for active status and notification of changes in employment or address. Any broker license, whether provisional or not, must be on active status when the broker is performing real estate brokerage activities. To stay on active status, a licensee must timely pay the annual license renewal fee and meet both the post-licensing and continuing education requirements. A licensee must also inform the NCREC within 10 days of any change in employment status or in business or residence address, phone number, or email address. License renewal. All real estate licenses expire on June 30th after the issuance date unless renewed by that date, even if the license was recently issued in May or June. License renewal notices are sent to licensees every year in May, and with new licenses issued in late May or June. Licensees should renew online between May 15th and June 30th. The annual license renewal fee is $45. Licensees must renew their licenses on time, even if they didn't get renewal notices due to business or residence address changes or other reasons. Engaging in real estate brokerage activities with an expired license is illegal. Brokers should download a new digital license pocket card every year upon license renewal. The card verifies license renewal but doesn't indicate whether the license is active or inactive. If there's a change in license status, a separate notice is mailed to the licensee. Post-licensing education for provisional brokers. All provisional brokers must complete 90 instructional hours of post-licensing education within 18 months of initial licensure to be eligible for active license status. The post-licensing education program consists of 3 30-hour courses: broker relationships and responsibilities, contracts and closing, and NC law, rules, and legal concepts. Once all 3 post-licensing courses are completed within 18 months of initial licensure, the provisional status of the broker license will automatically end. If a provisional broker doesn't finish a post-licensing course by the end of the required period, the license will become inactive until the education deficiency is remedied and license reactivation is requested. The post-licensing courses are offered by approved education providers in various formats, including distance, synchronous, in-person, or blended instruction. Post-licensing education versus continuing education. Post-licensing education is different from continuing education. Post-licensing education is a one-time requirement for provisional brokers to be eligible for active license status and must be completed within 18 months of initial licensure. Continuing education is a yearly requirement for all licensees wishing to maintain active license status eligibility and must be completed each license period by June 10th, starting with the first full annual license period after initial licensure. The continuing education requirement is 8 hours per annual license period, including the general update course and 1 4-hour NCREC approved elective course. The C requirement must be met by June 10th of each annual license period to maintain BIC and active status. A limited exception exists for new licensees. A newly licensed broker doesn't have a continuing education requirement during the initial license year. Such a broker must meet the 8-hour annual continuing education requirement before the second license renewal to maintain active status. Non-resident licensees without any North Carolina address and who also have an active license in their resident jurisdiction can meet the North Carolina continuing education requirement by keeping their license in the resident jurisdiction active and certifying this status when renewing their North Carolina license. However, a non-resident with a North Carolina business or delivery address doesn't have this option and must take the current General Update continuing education course in North Carolina and either take a North Carolina approved continuing education elective course or request equivalent elective course credit for a continuing education course taken in another jurisdiction.